Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. On today's episode, we're deviating a little bit from the usual, given that just yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was, ESPN's Andreas Hale dropped, apparently, the official ESPN grade for their own WWE Premium Live event, Wrestlepalooza, and gave it a C. We thought it'd be kind of fun. You know what? We're going to go ahead and grade not just that premium live event, all premium live events from WWE for the year 2025. We've only got, we got 3 left. I'll start off then. January 25th, Saturday night's main event. It was the one punctuated by Gunther versus Jey Uso. I think it was like a rematch or something because Gunther walked in as champion and he left as champion.
He did.
So it was just
He did. It was Jay's last loss to Gunther before he won the title.
This is why, I feel like there's really nothing really to grade here because there's a bunch of short ass matches and nothing really happened. So I gave it, God, why did I even give it this much? I gave it a C because the matches were all like in the 3-star range according to my star rating. So I feel like that's probably on par with a 3, or with a C. Like nothing really happened there. So
yeah, that's why I was hesitant to include him in the first place because all the matches are short. Not as much happens as premium live events.
I mean, it's apropos. They don't list them as anything premium because they're not.
No, they're not. Not at all.
Yeah.
Here, I'll look at the card real quick.
We had Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax.
Yeah, Braun versus Sheamus. Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. Gunther versus Jey Uso. Yeah, I mean, it was, the build to get Jacob Fatu to U.S. title, U.S. champion level. That happened here. Braun, they're building him up with the match against Sheamus. Jey versus Gunther wasn't bad. That's the highest rated match on the card for both of us.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Would you give it a C minus?
I gave it, what did I say? I gave it a C, just straight up C.
All right, yeah, I'll agree with that one. I'll give it a C, too. I mean, the matches weren't necessarily bad, but it's Saturday night's main event. Not much happens.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the, second biggest traditionally premium live event of the year, February's Royal Rumble, which this year, these are my notes for this. So we had, obviously, the Women's Royal Rumble match, the Men's Royal Rumble match. We had Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens in not just a ladder match, Larson, but Ladder War.
Well, we dubbed it Ladder War.
And then, of course, we had DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns in a 2 out of 3 falls match, which was kind of like why is this here? But everything else, it was pretty solid. I mean, I thought that the 2 Rumble matches were pretty solid. I thought the men's Rumble match was actually really, really good. I gave that a really high grade or star rating. Mm-hmm. And then the women's one was good. It wasn't exceptional, but it was good. It had one really cool winner, Jey Uso. It was really neat to see him beat John Cena there in the final 2. And then the women's Rumble match, it had Charlotte as the winner, which was I don't know if that was the best move in the world, but they did that.
Well, not with the creative they had for her return, probably not.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the SmackDown tag match was just sort of why is this really here? And then the match itself really was not all that great either.
Which is interesting because the promise of DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns in a 2 out of 3 falls match, you're like, yeah, heck yeah, that's be a banger. But then I think it was 12 minutes.
Yeah. It's weird. So all that said, I gave it a B. Thought it was a solid show. It wasn't great. It wasn't exceptional, but it also wasn't bad, and it wasn't merely average. I thought that they had, a couple surprises. I don't think I had Jey Uso. I don't think anybody had Jey Uso winning that thing. I'm sure there were some people on Twitter that did, but I know we didn't. And I did.
I did a few months prior when we booked Wrestlemania. I said that
That's
Jey was
right.
going to win the Rumble
did.
and face Gunther. Yeah.
Yeah. By the time we got there, though, it didn't seem likely that was going to happen.
No.
But yeah, the men's Rumble match was a really, really well booked match. There was a lot of big stuff happening there, and then of course Ladder War, which was an awesome match.
Yeah, that was really good.
So I gave it a B.
Yeah, I tried to formulate a system using my average match score for each match plus thing about story implications plus moments.
Yeah, I think you're right about. Yeah, that's sort of what I did
I
too.
think that's kind of like my three kind of pronged criteria for grading these shows.
I also add a little bit of like, oh, and this sort of goes into what you're saying in terms of like story ramifications or whatever you said. Like the build, what like did they build this so that the story mattered? Yeah.
Yeah. So like the average match score I have here for me was 3 3/4 stars average, which is pretty decent. It's a solid all around card. Jay winning the Rumble, the main event was awesome. It's a great moment. Him eliminating Cena at the end. I agree with you. I gave it a B. I thought all around it was a relatively enjoyable pay-per-view. Oddly enough, the worst match was the 2 out of 3 falls match for the SmackDown tag titles, which on paper that should be 4.5 star floor. And I guess that's what happens when you give 12 minutes to two of the better tag teams in the world.
I think if they had maybe booked a different mid-card match that was just absolutely stellar and had big story implications, and on top of that, I think maybe if they had given us either better creative behind Charlotte's return or somebody else winning, which I honestly think should have been the case. If they had somebody else winning this, maybe a surprise like a Roxanne Perez or something like that, where it's like, whoa, great spot for an up-and-coming person. And maybe if the match was booked a bit better, because I only had this at like 3.5 stars. If they had done that, I think it could have been elevated to an A. But B's a pretty, especially given the grades I gave over the summertime. B, they should be really happy with that.
They should be happy. I mean, yeah. Next up, we have Elimination Chamber 2025. Of course, where John Cena turned heel. Jade Cargill made her return. Attacked Naomi in the beginning of the Women's Elimination Chamber match. In terms of average match score, this is my highest rated show of the year.
I believe this is mine as well.
Both the chamber matches were great. We had great moments, great story beats. The KO Sami Zayn unsanctioned match was really good. Like the lowest rated match was Tiffany and Trish versus Nia and Candice, and that was still for me at least 3.25 stars. So not like it wasn't a dud. It was still a solid bout.
Yeah.
You add the quality of the matches plus the huge moments, Cena's heel turn, which at the time was seismic. Follow through, not so much, but at the time it felt like a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think in terms of the most bang for your buck in terms of like a really effective and really well executed story beat, is Jade going after Naomi and Bianca in the chamber. Like I think as we kind of like move, on from this show in terms of some time, I don't know, I feel like that's gonna be one of those moments we're gonna see a lot.
Sure.
Even more so maybe Cena's heel turn, because I feel like once Cena retires, all right, he had his heel turn, it was done. But all told, I think it's kind of mixed results in terms of how that's going to be accepted or analyzed going forward. But man, that bit with Jade and Naomi and Bianca's reacting to it, it was so good. Anyways, long-winded way of me saying I gave this an A-. I thought it was one of the 2 best pay-per-views that WWE put on for the year.
Man, I wouldn't even give it an A-. I gave it an A. This was awesome from beginning to end. I mean, and I even think in retrospect, I do think that I underrated Owens versus Zayn in the unsanctioned match. I only gave it 4 stars. It probably deserved higher than that. Probably deserved 4.5. I gave this a straight up A. This is the show of the year, in my opinion. This is absolutely the show of the year. One other show comes close, but doesn't match this. The heel turn was executed with absolute perfection. The only thing you can say about it was Travis Scott giving Cody a potato. That's like the one thing which was barely captured on camera. But beyond that, it had a lasting image. And I agree with you in terms of how often will WWE... I do think this. I think the next time we have like a massively seismic heel turn, this one will be in there with the debate over, okay, you had Hogan's, you had Cena's, and then you had whatever new one happens. Yes, the follow-through does. I think the follow-through firmly puts this heel turn in historical context under Hogan's. because Hogan's was a great follow through. It was like one of the greatest stories that's told in professional wrestling, the NWO story, which obviously they didn't like nail the finish. There really wasn't much of a landing there.
No, I don't think there's anything planned either.
But it did rejuvenate the entire wrestling industry, and gave us probably the greatest era of pro wrestling. And so Cena's heel turn, I don't think they're going to look back on it with the same amount of reverence as the Hogan one. But in the moment, that image of him standing next to The Rock had so much promise. And what we're talking about is, individual, moments in a vacuum, if you will. And so, I thought this was absolutely terrific. It's probably, for me, it's borderline A+. But this definitely gets an A here.
Let's move on to Wrestlemania. We'll talk about both nights individually and then give a collective score for both shows. So night one, I don't think there's much debate. Better of the two nights.
Oh,
the average
1,000%.
match score, much higher. There wasn't the low that was Cody and Cena in the main event of night two that happened on night one. Like on my match ratings, the lowest rated match was the opening one, which was Gunther versus Jay. Still, that's 3.25 stars. Not a bad match.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And my scores for that range from that all the way up to 5 stars. You had Punk versus Seth versus Roman, the main event night one, which was awesome. You had the moment where Heyman turns on Punk and aligns with Seth, which they foreshadowed pretty heavily, but still seeing it actually happen was something else, and it was pretty cool. That being said, I gave the night one of WrestleMania a B.
I went slightly higher. I gave it a B+ because I also look at, you look at the last 3 matches on that card. You had El Grande Americano, Rey Fenix. Awesome match. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Messy, but I loved that match. It was violent. It was all over the place. The build sucked, but the build was also like making you think, how is this match going to go down? Tiffany left with like busted teeth, And then you had that killer angle at the end with Punk, Rollins, and Reigns. The only match on here that it was like, does this need to be on here? Maybe is War Raiders versus New Day, and that's just honestly, I don't remember much about what was going on then. I just remember back then, or right now, I'm like, I look at where War Raiders are right now, and even where New Day is right now, it's like nobody really benefited from any of that. But so I gave it a B+. I thought it was a really solid night one. And then we move on to night two, which, you can't help. It's man, I tell you what, if they had put Io, Bianca, Rhea on night one, the night one probably would have been like an A- for my taste, or even an A. And this is the only match really preventing night two from having like maybe even a D. I gave night two a C-.
I did too.
The Cody versus John match was absolutely atrocious, obviously. Like, in retrospect, it just gets worse and worse. AJ Styles versus Logan Paul
Not good.
Was not very good, especially considering the 2 participants, even including Logan Paul. It's like, we know that he can be brought to like a really, really good match. Joe Hendry was a fun surprise, but nothing more than kind of a gimmick. Priest versus Drew, now in retrospect, probably belonged on a SmackDown. Back then, they probably had a hotter feud going. But that opening match, Io versus Bianca versus Rhea, saved this from just being in the absolute dumpster.
Yeah.
My final grade for WrestleMania this year was a C+. I got a B+ and a C-, and it's like, okay, meeting in the middle, you either get a C+ or a B-, I guess. And I went with the lower of the 2 grades because the final word on WrestleMania was that dog shit John Cena match with Cody. And so I brought it down to a C+.
Yeah. Night 2 of WrestleMania really falls off after the first 3 matches. Io, Rhea, Bianca, awesome. After that, Priest and Drew with the street fight was a lot of fun. And then Dom winning the Intercontinental title was a huge moment at WrestleMania in that 4-way match. But after that, it goes downhill. I agree with you. I gave it a C- as well, night 2, and WrestleMania as a whole, a C+. Just as a whole, like if you take the 7 best matches across the 2 nights and make one card, that's an easy A.
Absolutely,
it really is.
Absolutely, 1,000%, yeah.
But that's not what we got. So There's a lot of mid and some not very good. Again, the final kind of image is the not very good, so C+ it is.
There's also what we just got at SummerSlam with Cody and Cena, and it's like, wait, they were capable of that? They were capable of something like that. That's wild to me. Well, and instead,
the point of that match was to hit one story beat, Steve. It did what it had to do.
I guess so. Anyways, we're going to continue on with the rest of the year 2025. But first, we have a sponsor for the show this week, so let's go ahead and talk about them.
Let's do it. This episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by Tempo. My kids are back at school, and that means there's a lot more going on in the Ann Larson household between all the homework and after-school activities the kids have going on. Plus, work for me, planning and preparing a healthy meal at dinner time become a serious challenge.
You got that right, man, which is why I love Tempo. They offer pre-cooked real meals that are actually good for you, and they're ready to eat in just minutes. Tempo means that I no longer have to skip meals or order mediocre takeout or pick up something at the drive-thru when my schedule is packed.
And Tempo keeps things exciting with 20 new recipes every week, like spicy chicken harvest bowls and Tuscan turkey meatballs that are made with nutrient-rich ingredients so you can stay consistent with your healthy eating habits. You know me, Steve. I need to get my protein in every day. But no matter your goals, there's a Tempo meal for you. There's carb-conscious, fiber-rich, and oh yeah, protein-packed meals with up to 30 grams of protein. Yeah.
That's right. And for a limited time, Tempo is offering our listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/raw. That's tempomeals.com/raw for 60% off your first box. Tempomeals.com/raw. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Move on to the next show, which was Backlash 2025.
Yeah. Backlash was actually a pretty, Backlash is one of those things where, like, walking into this match, it was like, we're going to have Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Actually ended up being surprisingly not a terrible match. They sort of did what they wanted to do and a little bit more, I feel. Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch was an incredibly good match. And I remember John Cena versus Randy Orton being pretty decent as well. You and I kind of strayed from our scores. I gave it a much higher score than you did, but you still gave it a good score. Right now I have a B, but I'm also kind of looking back and being like, I don't know, a B or a B- makes more sense because you look at the ramifications of what's of the entirety. Lyra versus Becky is up there with the potential feud of the year. Mm-hmm. At least it's on the short list of feuds of the year. Mm-hmm. And this was a really, really good match.
Oh, it was awesome.
It's also Backlash. I got that. I got a really good score for that Cena versus Randy Orton. But then, like, in my head, I'm like, do I really remember much from it? I'm waffling between a B and a B-. Let me hear you out. What do you have for this?
All right. So the average match score I have is just a little bit below the Rumble, which I gave a B. Mm-hmm. And Cena versus Orton was a huge improvement over what we saw at WrestleMania between Cena and Cody. It was actually a compelling, rather entertaining bout.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the Gunther Pat McAfee stuff going into it. I was not necessarily a fan of how it was executed. I didn't even think that match should have been booked in the first place.
Yeah.
Wasn't huge on that. Lyra versus Becky was absolutely incredible and kicked off an awesome series of matches between the two of them and involved Bayley too. So I think this pay-per-view would probably be more fondly remembered for Lyra and Becky, and then kind of the Cena Orton match, getting Cena's retirement tour kind of back on track from an in-ring perspective.
Yeah.
That being said, looking back now, especially Gunther's first match after losing that title against Pat McAfee.
Yeah, right. But we didn't stray too far from our scores. I gave it 3.5. You gave it 3. It's not like we were like super. I guess that gulf right there was enough. To be like,
it's enough between a B and a B- for me. I gave it a B- because it just didn't quite have the moments that the Rumble gave us. And for me, that was really the difference. I mean, the Rumble, my average match score is slightly higher. Mm-hmm. But I think outside of Lyra versus Becky in this match, kicking off their feud, That's the most memorable thing, at least for me, about this particular show.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll give it a B minus. Yeah. All right, man.
You ready for some low Saturday night main event scores?
Dude, honestly, like I wish we had communicated more on this because I hated to spring the Saturday night's main event. I figured you just would have, but like, oh my God,
not much premium about him, especially this stretch over the summer.
This is when things really got kind of dire for WWE. So we've got a May Saturday night's main event, which had CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, which I guess was my match of the night because everything else I rated lower than that. Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green, which was probably one of those weird 5-minute matches.
Yeah, I think it was 5 minutes.
John Cena versus R-Truth, which was a waste of time.
And really disappointing how they booked it. Exceptionally disappointing.
Yeah. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. That was the steel cage match that was more notable for Jesse Ventura shitting all over it live on commentary.
Yeah.
And then Jey Uso versus Logan Paul.
That was Jay's first title defense.
Title defense, yeah. There's really nothing here to celebrate. I gave it a D+. This is just I can't even say, it's just an average card. This would make like an okay episode of Raw, right? Like this would be an okay episode of Raw.
It would be a middle of the road episode of Raw, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it would be middle of the road. Yeah. I gave it a D+. Mm-hmm, yeah. I understand they're investing a lot in pushing Logan Paul as a main event caliber wrestler. That being said, he still really doesn't have the same amount of equity with the fans in terms of being viewed as a potential world champion at this point as a lot of other people on the roster. So for that to be Jay's first title defense is a little underwhelming.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, when the highest rated match is only 3.5 stars, that doesn't speak to the overall quality of the in-ring work on this show. It was just a lot of short matches. Yeah, the two most notable things about the cage match was Ventura dumping all over the premises, someone walking through the door, and then Damian Priest hitting Drew with the concerto.
Yeah.
That was really it.
Yeah.
D+.
Yeah, not good at all.
Nope.
Let's move on now to, I think we're in June for Money in the Bank? Or
Money in the Bank,
July?
yeah.
Okay, well, whatever we are. We're at Money in the Bank. So this one had another good Lyra versus Becky match.
Yeah.
It had a thrown in there Dominic versus Octagon Jr. match, which was really short.
Which was booked earlier in the day because Worlds Collide happened, yeah.
That's right, yeah. We had the Money in the Bank matches I have here just as like, they were fine. Naomi winning was really good.
That was awesome, yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like Naomi winning was like the one kind of highlight, and the match was kind of like, nah. And then the men's ladder match didn't have like a super shock, winner,
just
obviously.
Seth winning, yeah.
It was Seth, and like the match itself was like, nah.
Yeah.
So like, you put that all, and then the main event. Was this the main event? John Cena and Logan Paul versus Cody
Rhodes. Tag
Rhodes.
Match.
Well, there's star power with Cody and John there. And it's like, that's your match there. I gave that a C, but I mean, C is it's average, but this is Money in the I'm going to give it a C minus. It's Money in the Bank. This is your opportunity to have like a Rumble sized, surprise, shock, cash something.
Yeah.
And it's like we got really one good moment with Naomi winning. I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. And the rest of it was like, It was there. It was just there. Like, the match ratings that I have are just all very average. But when you also have to think, it's Money in the Bank.
Expectations.
You get docked some grade because you have the opportunity, like expectations. You have the opportunity to do something so fun and surprising. They already have spectacle, but fun and surprising. And it's like they didn't do either of those things.
No, especially the outcome of the men's Money in the Bank ladder match was so predictable. You see that coming a mile away. And it wasn't predictable in necessarily a satisfying fashion. It was like, all right, we know Seth's going to win. He wins. All right. Yeah, he's probably got to cash in to either cost CM Punk the title or cash in on CM Punk. Like, you could plan it out.
Yeah.
I gave it a C, and mostly just I don't disagree with the the idea that seeing as Money in the Bank is almost one of the major 4 pay-per-views at this point, almost in the same quadrant. But seemingly now Wrestlepalooza is going to eclipse Money in the Bank in that regard.
Let's see about that.
We'll see about that. Yeah, the expectations are there for something exciting and interesting to happen. And we got that with Naomi winning, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the card didn't necessarily live up to that moment, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I gave it a C. It's not a very strong C. I could have easily gone a C minus. Just kind of a middling Money in the Bank overall.
Yeah.
Naomi winning to open the show was great, and everything after that just kind of meh. I mean, Lyra and Becky was really good too.
Yeah,
those 2 matches, or Naomi winning and the Lyra Becky match, is what kind of I think convinced me ultimately to go with a C as opposed to a C minus.
All right, well there you go. All right, man, let's talk about heading over to Saudi Arabia now for Night of Champions. This, of course, we had CM Punk apologizing to a WWE fan there for his tweets years earlier. You had, and I know this is maybe it's a hot take at this point because we had, I think, more people in our comments saying, "Oh, this is great," than bad. Punk life, and I know that was on the SmackDown preceding it, but I take the whole thing as kind of
it's part of the build to the match. Yeah,
the match itself, Cena versus Punk. On paper, it's Cena's retirement. You don't not do that match. But it was just, they seemed like they were just tired. And the match was just underwhelming.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's sort of the theme of this show when I'm looking at my star ratings here. Nothing got over a 3.5. Cody versus Randy, I think, was a good match, but it wasn't great.
Solid. Yeah, it was solid.
Raquel versus Rhea, good match, not great, not their best. Cross versus Zayn, like this is a whole lot of
Yeah.
And so I'm going to my average star rating for the previous Premium Live event Money in the Bank was 3.3. My average star rating for this is 3, so it's worse. Add to that Punk Life, and I'm giving this a D+.
All right.
Because this is just not the better, the quicker you move on from this, the better, because Punk Life was so over. It was like the word that might be my turd segment of the year, Punk Life.
Yeah, I felt embarrassed watching that segment. I did.
Me too.
My average match score for this one is under 3 stars. Highest rated match is only 3.5. I can't really think of any huge moments per se.
Is there any redeeming? I mean, who won? Oh, Asuka won Queen of the Ring. We like Asuka, but the match itself.
No, she didn't. Jade won.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jade won.
But that's what we thought. We kind of knew Jade and Cody were going to win.
Yeah.
The moments that were good were all also fairly predictable.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there wasn't a moment that was really like, holy shit, I'm going to remember this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to have a show where the quality of the wrestling is fairly middling, you need to give us those moments so there's something for us to latch on to when we look back on it. And this show just kind of really doesn't have that. So I gave it D+ as well. It was not good.
Yeah, it wasn't. Oh, man. All right.
Speaking of not good, let's talk about another Saturday night's main event. This was when they did that the residency in Atlanta. It was this Saturday's main event and then Evolution the next day.
That's right. This was not. I'm waiting for the Solo versus Jacob Cage match. This was not that though. That came later.
Yeah.
This was Solo versus Jimmy Uso. So you start.
All right. Again, this is a show where the average match rating for me is under 3. It's 2.83.
Yeah, this is lower than the Night of Champions.
Night of Champions. Yeah. It is. This is the show that had Goldberg's retirement match, which for a Goldberg match, especially in the year 2025, is about as good as you can expect. Mm-hmm. That being said, not exactly great. This is where Seth faked that injury.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
LA Knight got the win on him.
Forgot about the faked injury.
And like at the time, I was like, I don't know what to think about this because it's weird and it's awkward. And in hindsight, obviously, it was meant to be weird and awkward. But it was almost so weird and awkward. It was like, hey, look at us. We're working you guys. We're working you. Hey, everybody, we're working you.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that how they followed through with that story was terribly well done either.
Yeah.
Solo versus Jimmy was fine. Drew versus Randy was match happened territory. I gave this a D. This stunk.
So I had a score for this. I think I actually I walked into this segment with the C-, and the more you talked, the more I lowered my grade because you're bringing all this stuff back. And I'm like, Jesus. Like, none of it was good. And then you had this is the pathetic thing about this. The only saving grace was that self-entitled Bill Goldberg had his speech cut off after 2 minutes or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And that's the only good thing they did here. His retirement match was serviceable, but the entire premise of he gets a retirement match against Gunther is sort of offensive and off-putting. The faked injury bullshit, a firm SmackDown mid-level match, Solo versus Jimmy, and then you open things up with Drew versus Randy, which according to my star rating, I gave under 3 stars.
Yeah, 2.5. I think you both gave it 2.5 stars.
Larson, I gave this a fail. This gets an F. An F. This wasted my time. This wasted everybody's time. Even Bill Goldberg getting a retirement match, he feels like this wasted his time. So that tells me they failed in every single thing they tried to do here. Saturday night's main event, July 12th. And on top of that, they used this to counter program All In.
That's true.
That's even more egregious.
Yeah.
They thought this would counter program AEW's Wrestlemania, where they're paying off their biggest angle of the year. If there was a grade lower than a fucking F, now that I'm thinking about this and I'm getting revved up, I would give it lower than an F.
Yeah, you're getting fired up here.
But there's nothing worse than an F. You can't do it F-. So no, they fail.
And then you look at that episode of Saturday Night's main event and watch it in comparison to what happened the following night, Evolution.
Yeah.
It's like, Evolution. This is WWE done right.
A celebration.
Yeah. A show where I think I gave 4 of the 7 matches, 4 stars or more. Mm-hmm. Top to bottom, fantastic wrestling. Mm-hmm. Awesome. The opening bout for the Intercontinental title, Lyra, Becky, and Bayley, I gave 4 3/4. Main event, Io and Ripley with the Naomi cash-in, gave 5 stars. This show and Elimination Chamber, the 2 best WWE shows so far this year.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing Crown Jewel or Survivor Series War Games are going to top these, though I could be proven wrong. Like Elimination Chamber, I gave Evolution A-. Fantastic show.
Yeah, I gave this an A- as well. Copy-paste everything you said. I guess the one thing sort of maybe keeping it from becoming an A would be the build wasn't all that great for Evolution. They built this sort of at the last moment. But like you said, the wrestling was just really, really good across the board. Really good to great. You had the big moment of the cash-in. That was awesome. You had a terrific triple threat opening it with Becky, Bayley, and Lyra. You had the NXT women's title, which I always love when they bring that in and elevate that, make that seem like a big deal. Yeah, I gave it an A-. I thought this was there with Elimination Chamber in terms of the best shows of the year. I thought it was absolutely terrific. And it's an A-, borderline A.
Same.
I think the fact that they just sort of packed it in with a big weekend didn't really give it, I think, WWE didn't market this in a way that was like, hey, this is a big time thing where big stakes are involved. And it was just up to the talent involved to elevate this to the degree that they did. And they did a terrific job doing that. So yeah, A-.
They did. Great show. Next, let's move on to SummerSlam. Of course, 2 nights SummerSlam this year for the first time, and it was kind of an inverse of WrestleMania in that night 1 was the weaker of the 2 nights. Night 2, save for 1 match, was really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that was the solo Jacob Cage match, which was utter dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was night 2. But night 1, you had Punk beating Gunther for the title. Really good match. You also had Seth cash in, and again, I wasn't really that into the story of, or I should say, how it was told with Seth faking the injury, and maybe part of that was because there was reports that was going to happen. There was a few matches in the middle that were sub 3 stars in my estimation, and in the end, I gave night 1 a C. It was pretty average, I thought.
Yeah, I gave night 1. I'm not far off. I gave it a B minus. The opening match was really good, although maybe it was, it didn't have it was a good match. It was a Roman Reigns bloodline type match, you're going to get with that.
Yeah.
It did finish with 2 really, really good matches though. The Gunther versus Punk and I'm sorry, with 1 really good match and then the cash in. Sorry. And so you had that. I thought it was so silly, but I didn't care. I enjoyed it. The celebrity shit with Jelly Roll. He's turned into an in-joke for me, so I'm cool with that. But yeah, I gave it a B minus. Night 1, I gave it a B minus. Night 2, as you said, night 2 was the better of the 2 nights. I gave that a B plus. You started things off with a really terrific triple threat here: Naomi, Io Sky, and Rhea. You had the six-pack tag team TLC match, which was absolutely fantastic. Becky versus Lyra, which probably wasn't their best of their set, but it was still a really good match.
It was a bit overproduced, but it was still really good. Yeah.
What star rating did you give that steel cage match?
I gave it a single star.
And then Dom and AJ had a good showing. And then you had a really terrific Cena versus Cody Rhodes. And honestly, dude, if they had, I would have probably given this an A minus, like this night an A minus, if the Cena face turn wasn't a big whatever promo the night before.
Yep.
I think they had something they could have done there that would have been really, really good. The night was still really good, B plus. And because the first night I gave a B minus, second night I gave a B plus, I gave it overall a B.
So night 2, I gave a B. Yeah, I thought the possibilities they had before them to tell an interesting story, a really interesting story versus Cody versus Cena, with the face turn happening during the match as opposed to just randomly in a promo the night before or 2 nights before. I still gave it a really high score, but gosh darn it, there could have been like all-timer potential there if they had told that story during the match.
Yeah.
The cage match is the only knock on night 2. Everything else is really, really, really good. So I gave it, my average match score is comparable to Rumble. I gave that a B. I gave night 2 a B as well. Overall score for SummerSlam for me is a B minus.
Okay, there you go. Let's talk
Two more, Steve.
Clash in Paris.
Oh, goodness.
So, what do we have here? We've got Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns, the Tribal Thief versus Roman Reigns. We had Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Jey Uso versus LA Knight with a really cool angle at the end with Becky Lynch showing up, so that's a positive. John Cena versus Logan Paul was a good match.
It was good.
Chock full of all the shout outs to, John Cena's career. I thought it was good stuff. You had a Donnybrook match, which was good. And then you had 2 stinkers. You had Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella and the Wyatt Six versus the Street Profits. So like the good really didn't, I'll put it this way. I feel like even though there were several good matches on this card, it didn't really, they were good in a vacuum. It didn't really do much for the overall story being told in WWE. They were just there. The crowd was excellent. But, like, it didn't really go above a scotch better than average. So I gave it a C+, which is a scotch better than average.
So my average match score is quite a bit lower than yours. I didn't give any match on here more than 3 3/4 stars. There was a couple really cool moments. This is around the time where there was a very, very, very noticeable dip in fan interest in the show. Usually, and our numbers on our podcast kind of reflects the overall fan excitement sentiment of what's going on.
Sure.
And normally, or interest level, I should say.
You're going to dock this show because we didn't make as much money as we should have on it.
No, I'm just saying that's kind of like how we check the temperature of the interest in wrestling kind of writ large.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a whole lot of interest in this show.
No, there was not. No.
Because usually our pay-per-view reviews get over 10,000 for us easily. This just barely got above that, even with Becky joining the Vision.
Well, they ran this show in the same month as SummerSlam.
Yeah, and that's another issue.
I know it's bookended the month, but still.
There's 10 just premium live events, not including, 3 Saturday Night's main event. That's 13 specials / premium live event within the span of 9 months. That's a ton. That's 1.5 a month.
That's a lot. Yeah,
it is a lot. I gave Clash at Paris a C-. None of the matches really moved me. Becky joining the Vision was cool, and it's played out, in a pretty entertaining way since. But apart from that, there's not for me a whole lot memorable about this show.
Yeah. Wait, what did you give it? Sorry.
C-.
C-. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. And that brings us to Wrestlepalooza. We know ESPN's score. They gave it a C. Fell a little bit short of expectations. I feel like it fell a lot bit short of expectations. We've talked about this pretty endlessly. We just did our star ratings right after the show ended this past weekend. So obviously you have the absolute turd of Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, opening the show, leaving such a bad taste in everybody's mouths. And not only do you open with that match, but simultaneously you have a potential match of the year candidate happening on the other channel with Hangman Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher.
Yep.
You had Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed versus the Usos with LA Knight as special guest ref. Weird finish there, probably because of Jey Uso, getting busted. You had one absolutely terrific match on the card, Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky. You had a kind of a bloated, overly long AJ Lee and CM Punk match with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, which was fun. It was fun.
It was
but it was
enough,
bloated. It was long.
Yeah, it was.
And then you had Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre, where Drew McIntyre once again did what Drew McIntyre always does, showing that there's no desire on WWE creative part to advance his character at all. One good match kept this from getting a D grade from me.
Wow.
It got a C-. So it's ESPN minus. And if it wasn't for Stephanie and Io saving this card, it would have been a D. If they would have, if somebody else, if they had a Sami Zayn open challenge, well, Sami's really good, so he probably would have put on at least like a 3 3/4 star match. But if it was like Sami versus Solo Sikoa, this would have been a D. This would have been a D. Or Sami versus Tonga Loa. This would have been a D. So I gave it a C- because one match really is the thing that everybody talked about.
That one match prevented me from giving the show a failing grade because Triple H set expectations. There was 3 criteria he set out.
Yeah.
Spectacle,
Yeah.
surprises, and fun. We got the spectacle. There's tons of pyro. The kind of the largest surprise of the show was Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot of fun. Even the stuff that was fun, like there was moments in the mixed tag match that was fun, but it was so bloated. The runtime was probably 10 minutes longer than it really needed to be. That the fun kind of got bogged down with the bloat.
Yeah.
This match was saved from failure by the show was saved from failure by one match, and that's Stephanie versus Io. Match of the year contender. It was fantastic.
It was.
But when the expectations are raised, not just by Triple H, by Mark Shapiro saying they want Wrestlepalooza, the brand, to be up there in the same quadrant as Mania and SummerSlam. And say for one match you lay kind of a turd of a show? You're not getting to that quadrant putting on shows like this. And for this to be their first effort on ESPN, how many people plunked down $30 for this and were like, fuck this, I'm not spending my money on this shit anymore?
Yeah.
In a lot of respects, it feels like an abject failure on WWE's part to put forth their best effort when this show is supposed to be pretty huge. You look what they did on the Raw Netflix debut.
Yeah.
That show was pretty stacked.
Yeah.
And it had storyline implications. It felt like a major event. This didn't.
Nope.
And yeah, if it wasn't for Stephanie versus Io, I would have given this show an F because WWE failed in a lot of respects.
Yes.
That match saved it from failure, so I gave it a D-.
Ooh, a D-. Right on the verge of the F.
Yeah.
Right on the verge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, those are our grades for all the WWE pay-per-view. Maybe at the end of the rest of our premium live event reviews, we'll go ahead and grade.
Yeah, we can.
Although
do that.
Sometimes historical context is kind of.
I think it's important to kind of look back on things and see, what followed. Yeah.
So those are our grades for the premium live, the major shows of WWE for the year 2025 so far. Let us know what grades you give for all the major shows of WWE for the year in the comments below. Do us a solid. Hit that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. If you want to get in on the predictions challenge for the upcoming shows here in October, you can do so by clicking join right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson and become a member. Or go to patreon.com/Steve and Larson. Click on the Friendo Club setup. That also gets you the same access to stuff enjoyed by the members here on the channel, including bonus episodes, question threads, and the aforementioned predictions challenges. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.